Alright, today I'm going to talk about troubleshooting and tips for troubleshooting your Coverstitch machine. And a lot of this can apply to troubleshooting most anything. It's important to avoid the silver bullet trap and be open to new ideas when you're troubleshooting. Simple solutions are nice, sometimes they happen, but it just doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes problems have more than one cause. It might be a combination of things. So, sometimes we feel like we're doing everything right and get frustrated, like it's just how this should be working, but it's not, so then it's probably time to consider some new possibilities. And I think it's also key to realize that you're not good or bad at this. You're just somewhere on a continuum like all of us. I've taught hundreds of kids to read, and reading for 6-year-olds is the first time they work toward a skill that takes a long time to acquire, relatively, especially for a young child. And a young child's frame of sense of time and place, and requires formal education. And so it's difficult for them a lot of the time, and I really try to help them see that it is a process, that they are improving and growing, that there's several steps to this process that they are progressing through, and they will get there. And so that you try to open them to the idea of what we call a growth mindset, that they can learn and grow and improve. It's not fixed. It's not like some kids are good at reading, some kids are bad. One day you can read and one day you can't. It's a process. I think sewing's like learning a musical instrument in many ways that, it requires a lot of practice. It's not a simple thing, and you can gain skill. It takes time. When you're troubleshooting, I'll start with ruling out the things that are easy to test or easy to fix or are the most likely culprits. Needles, if you see a totally mangled rat's nest, it's more likely threading than the needle. But needles can cause some pretty amazing rat nests, and so always check that first. I'll always advise people, change the needles, put some brand new needles in. A lot of times people will resist. They just think, oh, that's not what it is, that's not likely. Well, maybe not, but it's so fast and easy that, and you don't have to throw the needles away. You can stick them in a pin cushion or put them in your serger, put them back in after you figured out the problem if it wasn't that. People think, well, it worked before with these same needles, so it can't be that. Well, maybe you hit a seam just a little hard, or maybe they're not inserted all the way. Even my new Bernina sergers, sometimes they slip loose, and that'll do it. That can be the problem right there. People say, oh, they should last longer. Well, they should, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes you can even get it done right out of the package, especially if you purchase them on eBay. I've heard that people purchase needles on eBay and they end up getting used ones. So anyway, some people, I've heard people say, well, my machine came with these needles, so they must be good. Well, that's not, that logic doesn't always hold. You'd think so, but not always. So that's why I'll say just put in brand new needles of the proper type first, then go to threading. And in general, go pick off the easy things first. It's just a good general rule of thumb. Be thorough and methodical, and avoid jumping too quickly through the steps that seem obvious. I think we've all been in a situation where we're frantically looking for something, getting frustrated. You obviously look first in the places where you think the thing is most likely to be, but how many times have you, then done that rather haphazardly and then gone on to look dozens of other places and then gone back to start over and found it in one of the first places you looked, the place it should have been or was most likely to have been, but you were just going too fast, or maybe you were frustrated or in a rush. I've done that so many times. I tend to be impatient, and I've learned with Coverstitch machines in particular, but sewing in general, patience helps. Go slowly, be thorough, especially with threading, be methodical, and be in the right frame of mind. Makes a huge difference. It's really hard to concentrate or do a good job on anything when you're frustrated. And if somebody's trying to help you and you're getting upset and angry and frustrated, and venting, then the person who's trying to help you has to soak that up. And it's just better to wait until you're calm. It'll turn out better. Sometimes we're under pressure and we can't. So if you can at least take few deep breaths, that'll really make a difference in your level of success, as will having the right tools and supplies for the job, including correct needles, of course, and screwdrivers, good lighting, glasses, magnifying devices. I like to use these Optivisor goggles. I have purchased good screwdrivers for my machines. My older machines, a lot of times they came with worn out screwdrivers, and even new machines sometimes come with screwdrivers that just aren't that sturdy or good. And I bought this one off eBay. I think it's 1.5 millimeters. You can really get a good grip on it, and it's a nice clean point, won't wear out your set screws for your needles, because that's the other thing. If you approach a job and you're frustrated and you don't have the right tools, you can easily break things. It's really easy to strip a set screw. I had a surgery I was rehabbing, and the set screws were stripped on it before I got it, and it was so hard to find. I eventually did find them, but that's important to have the right tools, good lighting, good LED lighting. Oh, it's just going to make a huge difference in your work and the ease, which will keep your frustration low. Managing and using your resources well. It's really important to have the manual out in front of you. Review your videos and your other sources of information immediately before beginning to work on the machine, unless you have like a perfect memory. But if you're like most of us, or if you're older like me, you really want it to be fresh in your mind. If you don't understand something, go back and seek clarification. Because when you're doing technical work and reading technical manuals, every little detail can be super important. So take notes. It can be really useful. And it's definitely important to be skeptical of random internet and Facebook information, because there's some really bad information out there. But don't be an asshole, as my daughter taught me that term, as she says. I think it's not polite to argue with someone who's trying to help you, even if they may indeed be wrong. Just, if it's really truly bad advice and you don't want to take it, then just ignore it. But be prepared when you ask for help to show some flexible thinking, to be open-minded. Maybe if you're having a problem, maybe you aren't doing it right, and maybe this person does know something. Or, like I say, if they don't, you can just ignore them and follow through. Assholes are, the other thing assholes do is they ask for advice and they don't really intend on taking the advice at all. They're not going to follow through. They just want to be told that they're right, or they just basically want to vent, but they don't really want to do anything about it. And we've all seen this happen in groups where, not in our group luckily, but in other groups where people will post a question and then 10 nice people will answer and try to help, and then the original poster never returns. You never see him and you never hear him again. And that's kind of frustrating to people who are trying to help. So it's definitely nice when people say thank you, or if they show a picture of something they were able to complete, a project, especially something they made for their kid. That really makes people who have worked to help feel good and feel appreciated. So that's nice. What other tips for cover stitching troubleshooting do you have? I'm sure I've not included everything in here. So let us know in the comments what has helped you surmount challenging cover stitch or general sewing situations.